My name is Marisa Sampson. I am a carrier of X-linked severe combined immune deficiency syndrome, which is often shortened to SCID, S-C-I-D. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and I reside just in a suburb outside of Toronto now with my husband and 2-year-old son. I first learned of my carrier status in 2017. I always knew I would need genetic profiling done since I was a child when we found out my younger brother actually died of the disease. So that was in 1991. So growing up, I knew there was a possibility that I would also be a carrier of the disease. So it didn't really come as a shock to me when we got our genetic test results back. Severe combined immune deficiency syndrome is basically an all-out attack on the immune system. So only males currently are affected with the symptoms of the disease. Basically, their immune system lacks the T and B cells that are white blood cells to fight off infections. The most reliable known treatment for severe combined immune deficiency is a bone marrow transplant. Being in Ontario, especially in Canada, we're very fortunate to have all of the testing basically available to us free of charge. So when me and my husband knew that we wanted to have children, I basically went to my family doctor and I got a referral to the genetic clinic downtown Toronto. So after blood tests to try to determine which variation of SCID was in our family, we were able to find the defective gene basically through process of elimination and confirm that I actually do have the defective gene. I also was able to speak to the fertility clinic to find out my options for IVF with PGD to determine if that would be something that we would be interested in. Otherwise, we were also educated on the whole process of finding out if we decided to go ahead with a natural conception. We were educated on the process of finding out if the baby would be affected while in utero. So ultimately, we decided to go with the amniocentesis to find out if the baby that I was carrying would be affected with the genetic mutation or not. The reason we actually went with the amnio was because we missed the window to do the CVS testing, which is supposed to be done, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks before an amnio is able to be performed. So we actually just wanted to go ahead with whichever option would get us the answers quickest. But due to federal funding, there was just basically a delay in getting the approval for the federal funding. So we missed the window on the CVS and we ended up going with the amniocentesis. I was about 16 weeks pregnant when we did that procedure. My husband and I very carefully weighed all the options and all the factors that go into making the decision around whether or not we wanted to try for natural conception or go with the IVF. Ultimately, it came down to the fact that I'd never been pregnant before. We had no idea if we had fertility problems. We just thought, we had a 25% chance that the baby would be sick. And that meant we had a 75% chance that the baby would be okay. Whether she ended up being a girl as a carrier, she wouldn't be affected by the symptoms of the disease. So the 75% chance of having a quote unquote healthy baby was enough for us to try going with the natural conception and doing the genetic testing afterwards. We did face several challenges throughout the whole process. Because we were waiting for funding to be approved from the government, we couldn't proceed with any testing before each one of those approvals was given. So there was a lot of waiting involved for us. The first hurdle we actually encountered was when we went to do the sexing test, which is actually a blood test done when I was about 10 weeks pregnant. That test unfortunately came back inconclusive for us. So after 2 weeks of waiting for a result, we found out we just had to get retested. So we redid the blood work, and the second time around, there was enough fetal DNA in order to find out if the baby was male or female. So in finding out it was male, at that point, we were then able to proceed with either the CVS or the amnio. Again, running into a delay with the government funding, we didn't get approval for the test until it was time to do the amnio. So at 16 weeks pregnant, we did the amniocentesis, and it took 4 weeks to get the genetic results back. So physically, there wasn't any problem. The actual testing was relatively pain-free. It was really the emotional and mental struggle that I think was the hardest thing for myself and my husband. I was 20 weeks pregnant when I finally got the result back that my baby was unaffected by the disease. And that's half of a pregnancy. We decided not to tell anybody that we were even expecting until we had the result we wanted. So hiding a pregnancy for 4.5 months from your parents, your best friends, your coworkers was very emotionally draining. And that is actually the toughest challenge of going through the genetic testing route for us. I think I would just tell myself to be patient. I think I did a really good job the first time around, taking it step by step, one test at a time, one thing at a time without jumping too far ahead into the future. I would just tell myself to be cautiously optimistic. Whatever path you choose in family planning has to be the right path for you. You can't do what someone else wants. You can't do what someone else expects. You have to be comfortable with what you've chosen, knowing that it's the best option for you and your family. So although many people wouldn't be comfortable with the thought of terminating a pregnancy, at that point in my life, it seemed like the best option if we got to the point where we found out the baby would be affected. I wouldn't be able to do that again. But in no way would I say that that would not necessarily be the best option for someone else. We all know ourselves the best. And deep down, I think we just need to trust ourselves and our instincts. Get as much information as you can from all the trusted sources, doctors, remember the girls, and make your decision whatever's best for you.